3 years has passed since Chioma received her admission letter to the university. 3 years of learning what it meant to live between two worlds. The university world that was supposed to be hers and the world at home. Her mother gave her 5,000 naira before she left for campus. 5,000 to cover textbook, transport, feeding, everything. Chioma has stretched it for 2 weeks before it ran out. By 100 level, she was hungry. Most days, she'll go to classes on an empty stomach, sit through lectures, trying not to think about food, and come back to her hostel in the evening with nothing. Other girls on the floor got money from home. Some got large transfer from father or uncles. Chioma got silence. She came home for the first holiday break and did what needed to be done. She went to Idumota's market and bought trays of goods, cheap jewelry, hair clips, phone accessory, the kind of thing that cost almost nothing but could be sold for double or triple the price. She used the little money she had saved from small jobs on campus, helping girls to write their assignments, selling notes she had taken in lectures, washing clothes for older students, and combine it with what she could borrow to make the investment. Then she went back to school and started selling. She took her trays to class. She stood outside lectures halls and pitched to girls between lessons. She went to events, to parties, anywhere there were students with money and the desire to buy things that look good but cost nothing. She worked every free moment she had, balancing her textbook with her inventory, studying between sales, attending lectures, half present because part of her mind was always calculating profit margins. By the end of 100 level, she had sent home 100,000 naira. 100,000 naira that Mama Emeka used to finally start what had been a dream for years, a fabric store with reasonable stock but enough that she could move beyond the rice table, beyond the hand-to-mouth survivor. Enough that there was a foundation to build on. Chioma sent money again in 200 level. Not always 100,000. Sometimes it's 50, sometimes 75, depending on how much she had managed to sell and how much she needed to keep for her own survival. But enough that the store began to grow. That Mama Emeka could buy better quality fabric. Something that had looked impossible began to look possible. Chioma grades has dropped steadily. Her professor noticed but said nothing, perhaps understanding that a girl who was present in body but absent in mind had more pressing matter than their lecturers. Her own dream of what she might become had been quietly filed away in a place she no longer looked at. But the house was standing, the store was growing. That was what mattered now to Chioma. Chidi had not come home in 2 years. Nobody knew exactly where he was. Only that after he ran from his uncle's house, that first time, he had texted his mom once, "I am fine, do not worry about me," and then gone quiet. Mama Emeka had filed a report. Papa Emeka had made several phone calls that went nowhere. Eventually, the active session has stopped and Chidi has simply become the family quiet absence. The persons everyone thought about but no one spoke about directly. Mama said she believed strongly that he was alive, though we never knew where he is. A man named Kule, who had connection in the gala business, had found him standing at a bus stop one afternoon, looking lost in a way that suggested recent arrival to Lagos. Kule had asked if he needed work, and Chidi, who had exactly nothing, had said yes. Kule had given him a room, a small space at the back of the warehouse where he kept his stock, and set him to work. Chidi carried trays of gala to different parts of Lagos, walking through neighborhoods, standing at bus stop, selling to office workers, during their lunch break, to students between classes, to anyone hungry enough to buy. He was 19 now and had learned skills that nobody's family knew about. How to move from Lagos, how to move through Lagos streets safely, how to know which neighborhood were dangerous and which were merely difficult, how to read people quickly and know whether they would buy or not. He had learned to exist in a way that required him to stop thinking about his family too directly, because thinking about them made it harder to keep moving. But he didn't think about them, he thought about every single day. Though he did not allow the thoughts to settle into sadness, he carried them the way soldiers carry memories of home carefully. He remembered his mother's hand. He remembered Chioma checking his homework. He remembered Ngozi's quiet presence. He remembered Adaeze laughing at something on television. He carried this memory not as photograph, but as weight in his chest. A reminder that he had once been someone's son, someone's brother, someone who belonged somewhere. He had stopped believing he would ever go back and decided to build up his life from this place. Ngozi, who is the third born, had discovered tailoring through a woman who lived near her house as number 14, a woman who worked from a small corner of an old shop. She had started going in the afternoons after school, learning to measure, to cut, to understand the geometry of fabric and body. By the time she finished secondary school, she was skilled enough that she knew what she wanted to do with her life. She used the money she had been carefully saving from small sewing jobs, from helping at her mother's rice table, from any work she could find, to buy a small sewing machine, a used one, but functional. She bought it and took it to her mother's fabric shop and set it up in a corner. Now, when customer came to buy fabric from Mama Emeka, Ngozi offered a tailor to tailor it for them. A simple dress, a wrapper, children outfit, school uniform. Each piece she completed, she was paid, and each payment she kept separate in a pouch hidden under her mattress, gathering slowly, persistently. She was working for two reasons. One was to eventually move out, to find a way to live separately from the family, to have something that was entirely hers. The other was because her mother needed her. The fabric store was doing okay, but okay was not stable. And Ngozi had understood without anyone telling her directly that she was now one of the people her mother was counting on. So she worked at the sewing machine in her mother's shop and she sent her mother money when the store needed restocking. And she continued to gather her own money slowly, quietly, living in the space between wanting to leave and knowing she could not leave yet. Ngozi, she was 17. She had turned down several marriages proposal, one from a man twice her age with money, one from a boy her own age with potential. She said no to all of them because saying yes would have meant surrendering the small amount of control she had managed to build for herself, and she had not survived everything she had survived just to give that away to someone else's hands. Every morning, before the sun was fully up, Adaeze would help her mom gather bolts of fabric, wrap them carefully, and load them onto her head or into a bag she could carry. Then she would go to the market. She walked through the morning street of Lagos, a girl of 15, with her mother's fabrics, and she would find her spot in the market, sometimes near the main fabric sellers, sometimes in a quieter corner where fewer people knew about her, but where she could still make sales. Mother would tell her the prices. Adaeze would remember them, and she would stand there all day, calling out to women passing by, showing them the clothes, negotiating prices she had been instructed to negotiate, and bringing home the money to her mother. It was not a complicated thing. It was simply what needed to be done. And Adaeze had learned years ago that doing what needed to be done without complaining was the safest way to exist. She still went to church, still found peace in the order and ritual of it. She still believed that God has a plan for her in all of this suffering. But her faith was no longer an escape from reality. It was something she carried alongside her market days, her long hours standing in the heat, her quiet walk that kept her family moving. The stomach pain had lessened over the years, though it still came occasionally due to her period cramps. But her mom don't even know about it. But those nights were rarer now. She had made peace with what her life was, and peace, however, had won was. Her father, Baba Emeka, had become almost irrelevant to the household survivor by this point. He sat mostly drunk, more than what was good for him. He smoked cigarettes with the deliberateness of a man who had given up, pretending to be anything else. He told himself he had failed his family. He told himself he was a man without option, without hope, without any future that looked like anything other than this. Sitting, drinking, watching his wife and children carry everything he was supposed to carry. But he did not change. His ego would not allow him to ask for help. It would not even allow him to walk beneath what he felt was his station, would not allow him to acknowledge that a woman half his size and twice his age had become the actual provider, while he had become a ghost haunting his own household. So instead, he drank, he smoked, he avoided thinking about any of it, and the house somehow kept standing without him. It was on an afternoon when everything changed. Kunle had discovered Chidi with another man in the strange room, having an affair. This man was not a customer, not someone that is into their business. The man was there for Chidi, and they were caressing themselves. Kunle did not ask questions. He simply began to beat the hell out of Chidi. Furious not because of who Chidi was, but because of what Chidi represented. A weakness, a taboo in the African culture. Something that challenged his own sense of order and masculinity. He beat him with his face with a belt with his shoe until Chidi's face was swollen. His shirt was torn. Blood ran from his nose. And then Kunle did something worse than beating him. He took out his phone and started filming him. The video was rough, shaky and taken in anger. It showed Chidi on the ground, bleeding. Kunle told the entire world that the boy he saw on the street was bringing a man into his warehouse to love and to caress, to have sex with. This is what happens to people like this in Lagos. This is what they deserve. No. The video went viral in hours. TikTok, Facebook, Twitter. The video was shared and reshared, each platform amplifying it, each comment section adding new layer of cruelty. People who do not even know Chidi created an elaborated narrative about who he was and what he deserved. Comedian made jokes about it. Pastors cited it as evidence of moral decay. The video became content because it became entertainment, became a thing that people sent to their friend with laughing emojis. By Friday morning, the video had reached Yaba. By Friday afternoon, it has reached the fabric store. A customer came in, held up her phone and asked Mama Emeka, "Madam, isn't this your son?" Mama Emeka looked at the screen. She saw her child's face, swollen beyond recognition, bleeding. She saw him on the ground. She heard the man shouting. She read the comments underneath, hundreds of them, thousands of them. She could not believe what just happened. She sat down very slowly. She did not move for several minutes. Adaeze stood beside her, watching her mother's face go through changes, shock, recognition, horror, and then something deeper, something that looked like the moment when a person realizes they have reached the absolute end of what they can survive. When Mama Emeka stood up again, Her movements were mechanical. She told Adaeze to look at the store, that she needed air. She walked out of the shop, down the street, and made it to the corner before her vision became blurred. Her heart began to beat in a way she did not recognize. Not the steady beat of a living woman, but this wide, frantic beat of something trying to escape from her own chest. Her hands went numb. Her breath came in short gasps. The street tipped. She collapsed on the curb, and a neighbor found her there, gasping for air. Pressing her hand to her chest, convinced that this was the moment she was going to die. By evening, she was already in the hospital bed. By the following morning, she had been told she was stable, that her heart was fine. The doctor gave her medication and told her to rest. So what do you think would happen to Emeka? Would Mama Emeka be able to come out of this trauma and this shock? Would Emeka also be fine? Do you think Emeka was molesting or having sex with his fellow man at that warehouse? Or do you think he was framed? Drop your comments in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe and like what we are doing. Your subscription, you liking our posts, encourage us to give you more story like this.